You are live.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Yendor Felgate on behalf of Mark and myself. We're just going to welcome you to our Understanding Your Strengths webinar this afternoon. I already start to see some old friends coming through. You're very welcome. We're just going to wait for a couple of minutes whilst people come into the webinar, and then we'll be kicking off as soon as possible. Right, guys, it's good to see we got 6 people joining us already. We're about 1 minute out from our official start time. We're going to give people 2 or 3 minutes to arrive, and then we'll be kicking off. Mark will be doing an introduction, and then I will be helping out with the slide pack on understanding your strengths. It's been one of those Fridays where I think everybody's going, was a Friday. It's fantastic that it's at the end of the week. It's a Friday afternoon, and I'm sure Mark and myself are metaphorically going to enjoy a cold beer after this. So if you had one of the types of weeks that we've had, welcome, and hopefully we can end the week on a positive note. Right, guys, whilst we wait for people to come in and give them opportunity to settle, you're very welcome to use your comments button. It's on the right-hand side of your screen, and that gives you an opportunity to say hello, greet old friends, or, just share a little bit about why you're here. Come on, guys, don't be shy. Nando, Catherine. Right, folk are rapidly coming through, so just a couple more minutes and then we will kick off. Superior, it's nice to see you. Say hello. Yeah, fantastic. Good that you're excited about being with us today. Laurentia, Mundia, Abel. We're starting to find our voices now. That's excellent. Come on, do a shout out. Say hello. This is not a training program. It's not a driver's license test. We can be friends with each other. So folk from Zambia, that's excellent. Accra, Ghana, Laurentia, that's great. Nando, appreciate you need a refresher. It's excellent. There will be a test at the end for you. India from Zambia. Josephine from Nairobi. So officially we have West Africa, East Africa, Southern Africa, South Africa, all being represented today, which is fantastic. Thanks, Catherine. I love the energy and enthusiasm. So if you can imagine, the team on BHG is myself, Yendor Felgate, behind the scenes driving the chat function. Just in case you thought I was an octopus, is my business partner, Mafrit Matun. She's going to keep up to date with those chats and the comments, and of course, any questions you may have as we go through. You're not going to see her today, but she is going to guide us through the process for this afternoon. Right, Mark, it's now 2:05. I think let's be conversant of the time. Can I ask you if you would be kind to give us a welcome, an introduction, and then we can kickstart the program for this afternoon?
Thank you very much, Yendo. Good afternoon, everyone. I believe we are all in the same timelines. I don't think there's anywhere where we have the morning. Thank you very much for showing up for this webinar, the Clifton Strength Finder. My name is Mark Void. I believe all of you know me either by on the social platform, but at least today we have met virtually. I'm proud and happy to welcome you to this webinar, and I'm also very happy that you created time to be with us. And without wasting any more time, I would like to introduce Yendo and Margaret, who are from Big Human Group South Africa. They are actually the proprietors of the company, and we are also partners with them with people as People Age Consulting, consulting firm-based. Welcome and good afternoon. I hope you'll enjoy this webinar.
Fantastic, Mark. I appreciate the welcome and the introduction. As the Being Human Group, we are very proud to work with Mark and his team across the East Africa piece. They're fantastic business, great folk. And if you need anything in the people development space, please, first port of call. I'm going to ask Margriet just to bring up our slide pack. We are going to guide you through a conversation in terms of doing several things. The first one is to give you a bit of an introduction to what Strengths is all about and why we get excited about it. You'll see folk that, like Catherine, that have been introduced to Strengths a little bit, and Nando, the enthusiasm and the positivity around Strengths is infectious, but infectious in the right way, not like in the pandemic. So just to give you a bit of a heads up on that. It's Friday afternoon, so we are going to share a lot of interesting information with you. We're going to ask you to cooperate and participate, so there's no free lunch in that sense, and hopefully we're going to share some exciting things that are interesting. On the right-hand side, you will see you can put your chat or your comments. Please, by all means, drop us a note, comment, ask questions as you go along and participate using the chat button and chat function. The hour tends to go very quickly. If people do participate, you'll get value out of that. We are recording, and we will be making the recording available to you, and you may share this in good faith with the people around you. So all good. Mark represents the business called The People Edge. They're our proud partners in East Africa, and we're very happy to start essentially what we think are going to be a series of these types of webinars, talking to people on in terms of both businesses, client bases, and keep on introducing the understanding of Strengths and what Gallup is doing across Africa. We represent a business called Being Human, BHG. So Being Human will give you some clues as to what we are interested in. So we're obsessed with the development of people. Our remit is across Africa, so we are intimately involved and like to work with all 54 countries. And from that perspective, we are a Gallup licensed training partner. So what I will be sharing with you today is everything to do with strengths and Gallup. This is what Makrit and myself, my business partner, this is what we do every single day. The session today is really start with talents and finish with strengths. So we're going to explain a little bit about why we think everyone that we meet is uniquely talented. We're going to share some ideas about how you move from taking your potential to developing them into strengths. For us, everybody with talent has the potential to be the best version of themselves. But in order to do that, they first of all need to know what their talents are. And secondly, they need to know how to develop those talents into strengths. You can be potentially the world's greatest long distance runner, but if you don't develop that talent, do the practice hard miles on the road, compete at every tournament and develop that, you're never going to be a world champion or the best version of yourself. Hello, my name is Yendor Felgate. You can see on the right-hand side of the slide, that's my name. People often ask me, Yendor is a bit of a strange name. How do you say it? Very simply, yen, like in Japanese yen, the currency, and door, like the door that you come through, Yendor. That's who I am. What's important for our conversation is my top 5 strengths. You'll see it's listed there, my number 1 strength. And remember, your number 1 strength is your most dominant. Number 34 would be your least dominant. The one that I use most of the time is what we call achiever. It doesn't mean that I'm successful, unfortunately, but what it does mean is that I'm very good at execution. I will have a structure, I will have a plan, and every single day I like to tick things off of having got the job done. And you'll see that I will be filtering or using my strengths to do this webinar. So we will finish on time and I will get through the slide pack with you. And that's what Achiever in Action is all about. My second strength is deliberative. From that point of view, I'm the type of person that likes to have a plan. I can anticipate risk and I can mitigate risk. And the best way of thinking about that is if you are about to do bungee jumping, you're standing on that bridge, you're looking over into the precipice and you're about to go head first down into the gorge. I'm the person that makes sure that the cord is safely attached to your ankles. So very cool strength. My third one is learner. And that's exactly what it says on the box. So I'm immensely fascinated with learning how people develop and the whole process around learning something new. My fourth one is strategic. That doesn't mean I have an MBA. What it means is I'm the type of person that will always come and bring options and suggestions to the party. And then my final top 5 is ideation. I'm the type of person that you should bring to a brainstorm. In other words, I'm always somebody that's sparking, creative, coming up with new ways of thinking and doing. Not all my ideas will be fantastic, but man, if you want to unblock a team, an idea, or get a new idea, or open up a business, then ideation is a way cool strength. Makrit is my business partner. Her top 5 is individualization. She's fantastic at understanding the individual needs of everybody she meets and crafting an approach to meet those needs. She has learner, much in the same way I do. Her third one is belief. That's not a religious thing. It's just that she has a very strong set of values against which she judges the world. So if you ever meet Makrit in person and she's starting to feel uncomfortable and almost on verging of not telling the truth, she will blush blood red in the face. So a key sign about when belief may go out. Her fourth one is connectedness. Her job is to connect the entire African continent, one person at a time, one strength at a time. And then finally, maximizer. This is a strength that is particularly focused on excellence. She's the type of person that will turn a Volkswagen Beetle into a Mercedes-Benz. That drive for excellence and spot on. So today we're going to talk about starting with your talents, turning them into strengths, and unleashing your potential. For those that are on the webinar as individuals or as part of a corporate team, you can use strengths for individual development, the development of teams, and then obviously the development of your leadership and management group. So it has application to everybody in the world that we think are human beings. So that's quite a broad definition. There are those that use their strengths for faith-based organizations, NGOs, students, high school learners, and so on. So this strengths really connects with the human being in each one of us. Thanks, Nanda, for sharing your top 5. That's always great. Relator, significance, communication, focus, and harmony. Fantastic. So Ralph Waldo Emerson said this: what lies behind us and what lies before us are small matters compared to what lies within us. Our approach from a Gallup perspective is that we believe that every single human being has a unique set of talents. We are all talented in our own way, and if we learn how to develop those talents and turn them into strengths, we can be the best versions of ourselves. We don't have to copy others. This is not 10 steps to greatness if you become Yendor. It's not a question of that at all, but it's deeply understanding what you have inside you and using that intentionally or effectively. And the research indicates from a Gallup perspective that that'll give you exponential performance. It's only when you actually use your talents to great effect or you can perform excellently, achieve those objectives you've set yourself, and perhaps become the world champion in the area that you want. You can't emulate others. It's not about role modeling or copying others. It's about uniquely being who you are. The key to success, we believe, is to fully understand how to apply your greatest talents and strengths in your everyday life. This would be work, home. We know with the pandemic and the lockdown, it's really put pressure on us to balance work and home from home, family, spirituality, well-being, anything that you have in mind. The key to success is to understand how to apply your greatest talents and strengths. Why do we think that this is so important? People who focus on their strengths, in other words, what they bring to the party, value and recognize their contribution, are 3 times as likely to report having an excellent quality of life. So 3 times more likely to be happy if you play to your strengths. I don't think there's anybody that wouldn't like that upside. And then for those from a business point of view, are 6 times as likely to be engaged in their jobs. So the research indicates that if organizations identify people's talents, use those contributions effectively, people are more likely to be engaged. And we know that engagement is the ultimate goal of a lot of our people practices. When people are engaged, they bring discretionary effort to the party. They are motivated, they are energized to deliver. 6 times more likely just switching on the filter of strengths. So how do we know that people are working from a strengths perspective when they're in their zone? Well, they have really high energy and enthusiastic, but here are some clues. People working in their strengths zone look forward to going to work, have more positive than negative interactions with co-workers, treat customers better, tell their friends they work for a great company, achieve more on a daily basis, and have more positive, creative, and innovative moments. So there's a business upside for using the strengths. There is a well-being happiness quotient or upside for using your strengths. Right, so here's an opportunity for us to begin to understand what you guys in the webinar have in terms of their strengths. You may not have done your strength finder, but there are some clues as to the types of things or preferences that you have. So what I'd like you to do is I'm going to ask you this question, and then I'd like you in the chat room to say yes, why, or no, N, as to whether this describes you. So type yes if you almost always talk to people in elevators, airplanes, grocery stores, and wherever you go. Type yes if you almost always talk to people in elevators, aeroplanes, grocery stores, and wherever you go. The good news, guys, is this is not a test. It's not about right or wrong. This is simply who you are. Obviously, those people who talk to people in elevators and so forth are people that have the most relationship strengths. You feel comfortable connecting with strangers and talking to people. Folk like myself who sit on an aeroplane reading a book don't like to be bugged by people that have such relationship quotients. So it's horses for courses. Thanks, Siberia. I can see that you, Abel, fantastic. Nando, definitely I can see that. Fantastic. Okay. Let's try another one. Type yes if you almost always have a color-coded or otherwise organized closet, wardrobe, or where you hang your clothes. These are the type of people that would be far more execution, structured, and strategic thinking focused, analytical, have a plan. All right. Yes, Macree's saying, definitely not me. Francis is saying yes. Laurentia is saying, of course, yes. Why would I not have an organized cupboard? I've got a very good friend who had such an organized cupboard that one day he had people robbed his home and took sections out of his wardrobe. And because he was so organized, he could literally walk up to his wardrobe, look at the gaps and say, yes, they stole 5 white shirts, 3 green ones and 4 blue ones, and he was able to replace them in an orderly fashion. Whereas in my house, I'm not even sure I would know that I've been robbed. Type yes if you almost always write down a list of things to do and stick to it, even on the weekend. As achiever, this is something that is very close to my heart, so I would be able to say yes for me. Right, so some folks are saying yes. Yes for Yendor, fantastic. Right, Superior, somehow, yeah, this is not always you. It could be some, at times it's like you. So if it's only at times like you, it wouldn't be a dominant strength in our world. Thanks, Macreed. Type yes if you almost always need to pick someone to race whilst driving. Nando, you can definitely say yes. As a South African, we're always racing taxis wherever we go. Abel saying no, fantastic, yeah. Mundia is saying yes, excellent. Guys, as we're going through these questions, a couple of things should strike you. One is that we're not all the same. And this should be no surprise. The second one is that we're all unique combinations of these types of talents and preferences. And the key point is really to begin to understand who you are and what you bring to the table. Type yes if you almost always tend to ask too many questions. If anybody's ever had a 3-year-old in their house, they will know almost always they would have too many questions. Folk with analytical or learner tend to be very curious and want to know what's going on. Okay. Type yes if you almost always push the elevator button to remind the elevator that you are there. Macreed tells a very nice story about this. One of our clients said that there's a great secret to this. What you do is you push the elevator button and you just hold it there and it'll come far quicker. We didn't have the heart to say that was interesting, so we just kept a straight face with that. And perhaps you can try it sometime. We're not advising it, but it should be interesting. These are the type of people that are those that are activators, impatient, energetic, want to get things done. And I see a number of you fit in the same category. So what is the point of what we're sharing with you? Everyone has talent. So unfortunately, if you're from HR, and I've been an HR professional myself, I'm going to say this with respect. Usually when you speak about talent to HR people, they say it's only about 7% of the organization. From a Gallup perspective, every human being has a unique contribution to make. They have talent. For us, a talent is a naturally reoccurring pattern of thought, feeling, or behavior that can be applied productively. Okay, so naturally reoccurring pattern. We think talents and strengths are as stable as your personality. They're inherent to you. You're born with them, and you develop them over time. Because people always say to me, but I behave very differently at work and at home, so I must have different strengths or talents in those spaces. Not at all. You can use your talents and strengths intentionally depending on the context that you operate in. So the way my achiever shows up at work would be very different to the way my achiever shows up at home. And I always tell the story at home. It goes, my wife, the kids, the dog, and then me. So it gives you a sense of different types of behavior. And obviously, how you behave as a mature adult would be different to how you behave as a 7-year-old, but it could still be the same talent as that's operating. Some examples of talent really include effortlessly and instinctively starting conversations, relationship strengths, thinking in an orderly or timely manner, analytical, easily and naturally influencing others, communication, maximizer, command, and consistently having a positive outlook on life, positivity. Now, nobody has all talents in the world, so you're not going to be well-rounded, all things to all people. You're a unique combination of these things. So some people will be dominant in relationship, some will be in execution, some will be in influencing, some will be able to build relationships or combinations of those. It doesn't matter what pattern of talent you have. If you know how to use and develop your talents, you'll be able to use them to achieve any outcome you wish or are motivated to achieve. Okay, so the message here is we're unique combinations. We have talent, we have contributions to make. We got to develop them in such a way that we can use them intentionally in achieving the objectives that we set ourselves for. And if we do, we're going to have a better quality of life and we're going to be more engaged at work. So what is the business rationale or the upside of this? People who focus on using their strengths maximize their potential. Teams that receive strengths feedback, just feedback on talents and strengths, have an 8.9% greater profitability. Now, this is fantastic because those are strengths and behaviors that you have anyway. If you know how to use them, you're going to be more profitable. People who learn to use their strengths every day have 7.8% greater productivity. Now, during this time where we were all constrained by the pandemic, if I went to your chief operating officer, your executive, your board, and said, by the way, we have great talent in our business, let's switch it on. And if we switch it on, we will get 8.9% greater profit, 7.8% greater productivity. I think you are going to get a very positive response. Right, so we're going to try and illustrate the difference between talent and strengths and not working in a talented space. So I'd like you to take up a quick pen. It's an exercise you're going to do offline, and I would like you to print the following phrase 3 times. But before you jump in, all those activators amongst us, I'd like you to use your non-dominant hand. In other words, if you normally write with your right hand, use your left hand. Okay. So I'm going to give you a short period of time. It's going to be competitive. There's going to be a prize for the person that finishes first. In other words, fastest. Okay? So I'd like you to do this. Print the following phrase 3 times. I use my strengths every day with your non-dominant hand. If you finished, just shout out on using your comment button. The first person that does it 3 times, well, we are going to give a prize to. Ready, steady, go. Right with your non-dominant hand. So if you're a righty, use your left. If you normally use your left, use your right. Go, go, go. All right, it's already been 5 seconds. Who's finished? Margriet, I can't believe it. And Mark, these are a slow bunch, eh? Come on, non-dominant hands. Come on, people. Come on, crack on, crack on. Oh, nobody's come back to us yet. Nando, are you finished? Come on. All right, I'm giving you 10 seconds. Let's see how far we can go. 10, 9, 8, 4, 3, 8. I'm jumping around. Let's see if we can help you. Go, 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 go. What is your dominance? What's your dominance? How far are you going? Is nobody volunteered? Margriet, I think our prize is safe today. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time out. Well done, Faith. So we have a prize winner. All right. Faith, well done. Congratulations. But just talk to us a little bit about what was that exercise like? Use your chat button, or you can just talk to us on your mic if you want. Faith is the winner. Can't talk to us. Okay. Faith, in your comment box, just indicate what it was like to do that. Okay, whilst Faith is commenting, Several things should strike you with this exercise. One is on the face of it, it's a very simple exercise if you use your normal hand. Okay, and that's the same way as looking at using strengths. If you use your strengths, it's easy. Performance as you don't even have to think about it. It is subconscious excellence. But the minute you're using your non-dominant hand, it's much more difficult. Thanks, Abel. Yeah, it's difficult, and that's like going to work every single day and using skills or strengths that you don't have. It's difficult. It's frustrating. By sort of the first 30 seconds, you should have got really annoyed with me, shouting at you all about finishing and so on. And so, working in a non-strength space is stressful. Working in a strength space, very easy. And that's really where we want you guys to play in. And the way to do that is you need to identify your talents. We use an assessment called the Clifton Strength Finder assessment, and it then assesses your talents from number 1 dominance down to number 34. So there is a way to identify. We think your top 10 is your most dominant. That's where you are going to get your power and edge from. So Don Clifton, who is considered a pioneer of positive psychology, said, "What will happen when we think about what is right with people rather than fixating on what is wrong with them?" So that's quite a great place to start, because usually the HR community would go, listen, if we want to get performance, we'll send people on training programs, we'll fix them, we'll address the gallop, we'll do a diagnostic, and thereafter life will be good. And typically you can do it that way, but it only gives you a certain upside. Whereas Don Clifton said, and we've seen this from the research and our experience, is if you identify what you're potentially great at and you develop that, you're going to get exponential performance. And intuitively, we all know this. So think about Roger Federer, arguably the greatest male tennis player of all time. He disagrees with me, but that's a different debate. If we ask Roger Federer, listen, this tennis stuff is interesting, but we also want you to get a PhD in nuclear physics, and we want you to be a world champion pole vaulter, and he may not be as successful as when he focuses on his passion, where his strengths lie, and see what has happened when all of that aligns, and he's become arguably one of the greatest tennis players of all time. So if you know where your passion lies, you know what your talents and strengths are, and you develop that, you are going to get exponential performance. Catherine said the exercise in terms of writing, it was difficult and frustrating. And by the time you get to the second sentence, you just want to quit. Absolutely right. So why is it in organizations in life that we spend hundreds of hours developing stuff that A, we have no passion for, and B, that we may never be good at? Why do we do it? Instead, let's switch or flip the lens, identify what we can be great at, and develop that. So there's nothing wrong with being aware of your weaknesses. Sometimes there will be obstacles, they will trip you up. If you need to know how to work Excel, you need to go on the Excel spreadsheet training course. We understand that. So there's nothing wrong with being aware of our weaknesses and managing them. But our greatest opportunity for success lies in building on our natural talents. So let's start now. Identify and maximize each person's talents and strengths. We use the assessment called the Clifton Strength Finder. It is the code that cracks open your awareness of your unique talents. There are 34 of them. And so when you do the assessment, you will get a report that says which ones are your most dominant. That's where your true potential lies. And which ones you shouldn't be really worried about. So there are 4 areas of talent that the assessment will help you to identify. And we are, as individuals, complex combinations of them. So there's executing strengths, such as achiever, arranger, belief, consistency, and so forth. Influencing strengths, which is an external filter. This is about impacting others positively and about credibility in that space. That's like activator, where you start and able to start something with a lot of energy. Command, communication, competition, and so forth. The third one is relationship building, how we connect and build relationships with each other. Adaptability, are you agile? Connectedness, like Mahrit, can you connect the world together? Developer, can you teach others? Empathy, do you know where others are coming from? Can you project and anticipate walking in their shoes? Harmony, which is about harmony is about managing conflict or not engaging or creating conflict. Includer, do we include others around us in this, and so on. And then strategic thinking, those that are analytically orientated, understand context, the background of something. Always futuristic, can anticipate and are visionary. So we can anticipate somebody like Elon Musk being hugely futuristic. Makrita's got so excited about futuristic, she's jumped ahead. So, Makrita, if we can go backwards. So we were thinking a little bit about futuristic. So we think, Elon Musk could be future. Ideation, I got ideation. Input, those that know and accumulate important information, know where the bodies are buried. Intellection, the thinkers, the learners, and those that are strategic in nature. You'll notice that when you do the assessment, you'll be unique combinations of this. So some people are like myself, they have dominance in executing and strategic thinking. So we're incredibly delivery orientated. We sometimes value task over people. It doesn't mean that we don't care. It's just that it does naturally not occur to us that we have to build relationships and we have to influence and so forth. So we're dominant in that area. Others have this wonderful capacity to make friends wherever they go. So you'll see in influencing right at the bottom is something called woo, winning others over, or sometimes we call it the woohoo strength. Okay, not mine, but I've seen it in action. And these are the guys that will come into a dinner party, look at 300 people there and say, ooh, by the end of this evening, I'll have 300 new friends. And they'll be able to connect and energize and go and network. And, the rest of us will look at this and we go, how do they do it? It's because they're playing to their strengths. Others may be more internally focused and more conservative around that. They may be relators. In relationship building, relators are those that have very few but lifelong friends and deep relationships with people. We once ran a workshop and one of the ladies had relator in her top 5, and she came to me at lunchtime very excited and said, Yendor, I've just made a new friend. So I'm going, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, she said it didn't take a long period of time at all. It only took 3 years. Now, we may laugh at that and we think, gee, who has 3 years to create a friendship? But that's the sort of what a relator brings to the party. Now, the fantastic thing about this is if you know where your strengths lie, you can do several things with it. One is that you can switch the light bulb on for yourself. So in other words, if you're aware of your talents, you can develop them into strengths, and you then begin to understand how to use them in the workplace or at home or whatever. Secondly, if you know somebody else's strengths, you can start to see how they show up, what they may need from you, how best they can contribute to a situation, and you can seek to think about complementary partnerships. None of us is perfect. None of us have every strength at equal dominance. So because we're not perfect, we may have some gaps. The news is not to develop the gaps, but to find complementary partners where people can help and work with you. And conversely, they can recognize what you can bring to the party. And it just makes teams work that much more effectively. So just to sum up on this section, there are 4 categories of domains: executing, influencing, relationship building, and strategic thinking. Often when we work with teams, when we look at how the strengths profile grid looks like, we can almost tell with certainty where this team is functioning well, where there are complementary partnerships, where there could potentially be hiccups, either in terms of do they work smart? Can they build great relationships? Can they influence others in the marketplace and clients and customers? And can they deliver on their promises? Right, so there is no more effective way to empower people than to see each person in terms of his or her strengths. It's a relationship shorthand. It's based on positive intent. So the type of strengths feedback you get tends to be far more meaningful and acceptable to others than to always say, trying to find fault, trying to find gap, or do a diagnostic. Right, guys, that brings us to the end of the formal bit on the introduction to strengths. There's an opportunity to ask any questions and to engage with us as we go along. We've got about 10, 15 minutes for that. But just to leave you with a couple of things. So a big thank you for participating today. We will be sending you the following. So there's an upside to participating. So we'll be sending you the free Strengths 2.0 ebook. That's worth about $20. We'll be emailing that to you. The second one is we're providing free access to our Strengths online education course. So coming out of this, just by participating, you will be able to go to our Power and Edge education program and learn a lot more about strengths for those that are interested. Sorry, guys, could you just put yourself on mute if there's an alarm in the background? Thank you. Right, so you'll be able to access, if you're really interested, our free online education program. You can go to our webpage and have a look at that. That's worth about $100. So just for participating, there's about $120 value in terms of that. If you're interested in doing your Clifton Strength Finder assessment, unfortunately, that's not for free, but you're very welcome to go look at our webpage. And if you're interested in talking to us, info@BHG or www.bhgroup.africa. So I'm going to pause there. Let's check in. Any questions or concerns or areas where you would like to have more information? Right, Faith, great. Capitalize on strengths. Absolutely. You've got them, so you might as well use them. I think that's great. Elizabeth, thank you. Those are kind words. Any questions, guys? Yeah, please do. Macris just throw me under the bus. Ask all those difficult questions that you may want the answer to on a Friday afternoon. Nando, I see that you wanted to refresh in this session. Anything you would particularly like to share, or you want to ask additional questions? Macrit's asking a great question. So what do you think your strengths are? Are you more relationship-based? Are you influential? Are you a great thinker? Or are you more execution? Right. Okay, guys, we're going to give you a couple more minutes. Otherwise, you are free to... Right. Have you done any correlation studies with other tools, MBTI, etc.? Nando, Gallup has done a whole lot of comparisons between the Strength Finder assessment and tools like MBTI. I'll take that offline with you. I can send you the paper. But basically what it does is it compares the tools. In other words, what is the difference between MBTI, strengths, Enneagram, insights, and so forth, where they have commonalities, what they do, because they are different tools and they do use different things, but nobody's done a sort of an overlap or a regression analysis between, say, Strength Finder and MIBT. Also, just to keep in mind, Strength Finder is a behavioral assessment. Whilst that being validated over the last 40 years, it's not a psychometric assessment. In other words, we can't tell you, once you've done Strength Finder, whether you are potentially an axe murderer or not. Having said all that, obviously strengths will identify your talents and what you can be potentially great at. So it's a great conversation to have, Nando. There is collateral material on those comparisons, but no sort of statistical data from that perspective. Elizabeth says, once we've done the free strengths test, will it give us developmental suggestions? Do you have a sample report you can share? Elizabeth, the answer to that is simply yes, yes, and yes. So in terms of Sorry, just to be thing, you'll have free access to our online education program. The Clifton Strength Finder assessment is a paid-for assessment. Having said all that, what is in the Power and Edge program is an individual development plan. What we think is fantastic about strengths is that it's a very practical how-to. So if you know your strength, like in my case, is achiever, the Strength 2.0 ebook that we are going to send you for free will not only tell you what that strength means, but it will also give you developmental suggestions. In other words, how to use achiever in your daily life, how to use achiever as a leader, how to use achiever if you're a manager. So that's all available from that perspective. So Power and Edge is free. Obviously, the Clifton Strength Finder, Gallup will charge for that. Right, so the great questions coming through. Yes, sample report. Margriet has just given our webpage. So on our webpage, you will be able to do several things. You'll be able to access our Power and Edge program for free. We will send you the ebook, and there will also be sample reports for what you get when you do the Clifton Strength Finder assessment. And there are also, just heads up, free additional collateral that you can download. So if you want to know how can I develop strengths of managers, there's a very nice free collateral called the Manager Experience. Right, Hilda's saying, how do you effectively blend an executor with a relationship builder without conflict? Okay, so we don't think, even though you may have dominance and execution as opposed to relationship, it doesn't mean those categories are conflictual or naturally would be paradoxical or contradictory, not at all. So we assume all things, that people are human beings, and in some ways they can build relationships however dominant in execution they may be. So me, for example, I don't have any relationship strengths in my top 10, and I'm very dominant on task, yet I have a wife, I have kids, I have friends, and so on. So I can build relationships. The trick really is to, first of all, look at why people are dominant and see how they use those to build relationships. So in my case, I use my learner. And you'll notice as you get to know me, I will ask you 100 questions to learn all about you as a person. And that's how I'll connect with you. So that's the first clue. The second one is, when somebody is very relationship-based and somebody else is very execution-based, it doesn't mean they have to conflict. If they are aware of those differences and they know what they need from each other, they can complement each other very easily. And I'll give you a great example. Margriet, who's my business partner, works with me every single day. She has dominance in relationship. I don't. I'm very task-orientated. She will always ask you about how you're feeling, what's the family doing, and all that sort of stuff. I am interested in that, but it won't naturally occur to me to ask. Okay, it doesn't mean I don't care. It's just not who I am. And so Margriet had a great conversation with me because during the pandemic, I was getting very frustrated, and you can probably imagine why. I was getting frustrated because I couldn't execute. You could work as hard as you wanted to do, but the world was in lockdown, and I was getting, really wound up. And Margriet just used her relationship strength and said to me, you know what? You must be very frustrated right now. I'm going, yeah, how did you know? She goes, well, I can imagine that as an executor, you can't get stuff done. That could be frustrating. And I said, you know what? You put your finger on something that I was aware of, but I couldn't say. And I said, well, okay, so what do you suggest? She says, well, why don't you switch your executor off and ramp up your strategic thinking? So let's think about this business and think about what could happen post-pandemic. And I just thought, what a great insight around somebody with a relationship strength that just brought me a different perspective. So if you're open to feedback and to complementarity, differences actually lead to fantastic breakthroughs. Okay, so more. Catherine, in regard to teams, are there chances that a team manager may keep using the same team members for projects because of their strengths and leave others out? Catherine, you're absolutely right. So depending on your strengths and how they show up, that's how you're going to manage people. And so managers tend to do a couple of things. They tend to want to work with people that they can get on. So there's a complementarity. Secondly, they want to work with people that can meet their needs or reassure them that they're doing a good job. And so you start to see a halo effect happening. And they could be missing out people with fantastic contributions to make, but never are recognized for those contributions. So Gallup puts a large amount of emphasis on management development, teaching managers to understand how their strengths filter their actions, but to release and unblock the strengths of each individual team member that they have in such a way that you can get greater feedback and performance than the sum of the parts. So absolutely right. Yeah. Right. More questions, guys. This is great. Keep going. Not sure if you answered the question. After the Strength Finder, is one able to obtain support to draw up an action plan? Josephine, absolutely right. So there's two great things happening here. One is if you do your Strength Finder assessment, the online Power and Edge program will give you additional support, an individual development plan, and all that sort of stuff. And that's free. So that's a great price. The second one is that's what we do. We support the Clifton Strength Finder. We coach individuals, we develop teams, and we work with managers and leaders. So we will always be around to help you and provide support for that. Nando says, at Catherine, in my experience, no one is left out but gets an opportunity to use their strengths best in a team, and turning up and down the volume of each strength based will give you different in terms of different roles and projects. Absolutely right, Nando. If you use your strengths, you can really get the best out of your team. Really nice one. Lorenzo says, how do you make up for the strength you shortfall in? Yeah, great question. So if something is down at the bottom, what do you do about it? Okay, so let me give you another insight. Empathy for me is my number 34, so it's really far down. Now, my history as an HR manager and so on, a lot of my HR director bosses would want to send me on empathy building courses, those EQ courses that HR loves so much. And I've gone on them, and I have to say they're interesting, but they don't do much for me. Okay. So if you have a gap or you have a shortfall or, something is not dominant, what you need to do is go look at your dominant strengths and think about how can I use my dominant strengths to achieve, in this case, an empathetic outcome. So I do care about people, and I've already given you a great clue. The way I connect with people and demonstrate empathy and understand that is I use my learner, I ask them lots of questions, and from the answers they give me, I begin to understand who they are, where they come from, and how they operate. And so I can achieve an empathetic outcome only if I use my dominant strengths intentionally. Okay, fantastic. Right, individual plan. Right, so we're given stuff. Fantastic questions, guys. Keep going. We've got a couple more minutes left. Last questions. It's been nasty on a Friday afternoon, but we want to be respectful of time. So we've got about 5 more minutes, guys. Any other questions you would like answered? But Fried, I'm just going to ask you to bring up that last slide again so just people can access the information that we are giving away for free, and just re-emphasizing that before everybody disappears. Yeah. Right, so Macreed is just whispering in my ear that you will be getting this in an email. But just heads up. So as a big thank you for participating, we'll be sending you the following: the free Strengths 2.0 ebook worth $20, free access to your Strengths online education course, the Power and Edge, worth $100. If you're interested in doing the Clifton Strength Finder assessment per se, you can do that at that link on our webpage. Just understanding, unfortunately, that's Gallup's IP, so it's not for free. And if you're interested in talking to us, that is our contact details. Right, so last question coming through. How do you balance between competing priorities and developing your weaknesses? So the great news about this, let's start with the end. We're not worried about developing your weaknesses at all. We don't think there's any point to that. Obviously, if the weakness is preventing you from doing something and you need that skill, then go on the program. So in my example, for example, is if you need to know Excel can't help you. You got to go on the Excel training course. No strength is going to solve that. If you don't have empathy like I do at number 34, going on empathy development programs is you're pretty much wasting your time. Rather, look at your dominant strengths and develop those and use those intentionally for great outcomes. I'm not sure about competing priorities. That's a different type of question, so it's a bit difficult for me to answer that. If you'd like to give me a little bit more information, I can perhaps express an opinion. Right, 3 more minutes and then we'll be closing, ladies and gentlemen. All right, on that happy note, just from our side, thank you very much for spending your time with us. We really love the participation. I hope that you learned something about yourself in terms of stand up and sit down and your own unique talents. I hope you learned a little bit about don't use your left hand if your right hand will work for you, and a little bit about how talents and strengths works this afternoon. And I'm hoping you're going to appreciate the free collateral that we are going to send out to you. We're available afterwards and online. If you have any further questions, we'll provide support to that. And again, thank you to Mark and his team for making this all possible. Mark, I don't know if there's anything that you would like to add and close. Right, Mark, you're on mute, so you are making a short, quiet speech.
Thank you.
There we go. You're back. Well done.
For the participants, I just want to express my gratitude for creating time to be with us. And for Yendo, thank you again for a super presentation whose benefits are immense, not only for organizations, but for individuals, for HR practitioners. I believe we came half glass full. Ours is a full, for me, it's a full glass actually. Going forward, we believe that we will continue having a relationship with the participants, get directly to the Being Human group. Wherever you have any questions, please feel free. And we look forward to having such webinars where we'll also share with you other unique service areas that we can partner with you and, make you better organization and better people. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening and nice weekend.
Fantastic, Mark. Thanks very much. For those that want to suggest topics for our next webinar, they're very welcome to do that. At the moment, we are thinking about our next webinar is going to be all about high-performing teams. Excellent, guys. Have a good day. Great to be online with you. Enjoy your weekend.